Welcome to What's in the Raid, where we discuss all things Raid Shadow Legends. Feel free to call me C. I've had a little bit of a think, and I think one of the things that really would have benefited me many years ago when I first started gaming is someone to have a conversation with me about the very basic stats that all RPG characters are built on. In fact, I did have someone. I've got very good friends that to this day I still speak gaming deets about, and I think it's time I paid that forward. So I thought I'd come in, let's have a look at Ezio, seeing as he has the first one up and he's relatively decently geared. Let's discuss total stats. Well, in fact, we'll start with HP. So for Ezio, I mean, in an ideal world, I would like him to have a little bit more HP than he's got right now, but he does have this lifesteal set on, which heals him by 30% of the damage he deals, and he's relatively quick as far as a nuke is concerned, so he does have quite a bit of resilience. In here, the game is great. It actually gives you like the abbreviations for all of these stats, and we'll go through each one independently. But the first one, obviously, as mentioned, HP. Now, in here they call them health points. That's perfectly accurate, but most gamers actually refer to this as hit points. It determines how much damage a champion can take before they are defeated. How many hits a champion can take and still stand. So the joy of this little panel is it really does break it down. So Faction Guardians, Empowerment, Blessings, which is thankfully something I've got going for Ezio because it was part of his chase, and relics, etc., etc. It's all got little bits and pieces that can contribute. But when you first start with any base character, you'll have your basic stats and your artifacts before anything else goes on. And then obviously you've got areas here, but we won't go into that just yet. But that is my total HP for Ezio. That means I can take 52,680 odd before he gets taken off the board entirely. So the more HP you have, the better survivability you will have in any given encounter. Now, Ezio does hit quite hard, so it is in your benefit to have him. He's not the best nuke in the game, but he's the best one that I have at the moment. And if his HP was a lot lower than that, I don't think I'd be using him near as much as I do. I use him in practically every single encounter that I have. One of the first things to understand is that HP never works alone. For instance, you can have other members on your team that can buff you and heal you and revive you, and all of those little individual additions that we will go into later. But just on pure base stats, these guys already communicate. So, as mentioned, your attack will chip away at your hit points, but your defense will actually determine how many of those hit points actually make it onto your HP. So it is about building a balance in terms of these individual stats. Also, one of the most common mistakes a lot of people do make is to stack a ton of HP on every single hero that they possibly can, and not everyone needs as much. Like, some characters have a lot more defense, meaning it takes an awful lot more damage before their hit points get affected. Also, as mentioned, you've got players like Taragi who actually live and utilizes HP for damage. So all of these heroes do have different HP needs. However, if you find yourself going through an encounter and your hero dies before he can even take a turn, one of the easiest ways to deal with that is to bump up his HP. Not every hero needs a boatload of it, but make sure that they are between 40 to 60,000 hit points just to maintain survivability. Also, if you're going to go in and build these stats, you might as well make sure that you've got percentage instead of flat. It's a good example right here. That goes off your base. So if that was, let's say for argument's sake, 10%, you'd be looking at 1,600 HP added to your character. So always if you are trying to bump it up just that little bit, if they're just not surviving, always go for the HP percentage. In fact, across the board where you can, always go for percentage stats. There are also other ways in which you can start stacking HP. For instance, your Great Hall is a very good place. So here it applies to the individual affinities. There is also area bonuses. Obviously, the name is on the tin here. This will only apply for these individual areas, but that is a great way of stacking HP if you need it in a specific encounter. And then there is Arena, specifically your classic Arena. So you have got these tiers over here. If you can get yourself into gold, ideally gold 5, where it's probably one of the most comfortable, tiers to just sit and relax in, your HP across the board, as well as your attack and your defense, goes up by 22%. So make sure to not neglect your arena. That's a great place just to add a little bit of extra HP and a little bit of extra just survivability. It really makes a difference as you are grinding through various encounters, just to make sure that each and every one of these heroes has the chance to survive long enough to deliver a hit. Especially your revivers, the more HP they have, the less likely they are able to be taken down, and they can at least deliver that revive. Just remember one thing, guys. A dead champion cannot deal damage. Thank you very, very much for joining us on this episode. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Take care out there. Bye, 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 bye.